Welcome to Simple.Honest.Focused, a conversation on how the simple gospel brings us together in honest community focused on the mission of God. So, Rod, what's been up?
Well, we are doing this COVID-19 social distancing thing, and here we are. We started this Simple, Honest, Focused webcast, little video series a few weeks back, and it's been really good. I've enjoyed it. We've had a kind of a kink thrown into our, the way we can get together. But, I'm glad that you are where you are, because you're in West Virginia and you're with your fiance. I remember telling you, I remember when I was engaged, I know that if I was going through this when I was engaged, where I would want to be would be with my fiance. And so it's cool that we can do a long distance video call that's recorded and still put it up on for the Simple Honest Focus. So things are going good on my end. I hope things are going good way up there in West Virginia. I know everybody's watching the news. I know everybody's watching what's going on and trying to pay attention to everything that's happening, and people are trying to get food and toilet paper and stuff like that. But I think it's still good for us to keep having these conversations. Hopefully this, as we keep doing this, even what's great about technology is we can do this when we're far apart. Mm-hmm. And so we started talking last week about just the gospel, and there's so much more that can be said about the gospel, and we'll talk more about the gospel. But what you just said as far as our intro, just how the simple gospel of Jesus brings us into honest community. And so what I wanted to talk about today, really, really quick, is just community. And one of the things that people say, and I've heard personally people tell me, is that they can follow Jesus without the church. They can be a Christian without going to church. They don't have to be involved in other people's lives. That a lot of people, I think, are tempted to slack off in the genuine community because of the way internet has provided a way for people just to be like, well, I just go online and watch church stuff, so that's enough. And it's really not. We need to be connected in community. And so and it's not just something that we come up with on our own. You can see, if you want to go ahead and pull up Acts chapter 2.
Yeah.
Acts chapter 2, if you're watching and you don't have a Bible, Jordan's going to share his screen. Acts chapter 2, what you see here at the top. So what's happening in Acts chapter 2 is really neat, because Jesus has done his ministry. He's been crucified, resurrected gloriously, victoriously. And the church now in Acts chapter 2 is starting to meet together. People are starting to, they're coming to Jesus. People are getting, saved, and it's the Holy Spirit has opened the way for people to come to faith. Peter just previously preached an amazing sermon at Pentecost, and thousands of people got saved. And then what we find in verse 42, it's at the top of your screen there, verse 42, it shows what they started doing after Jesus started changing their lives. It says they devoted themselves to the apostles' teaching, which mainly is the gospel, and they devoted themselves to the fellowship, which, getting together as brothers and sisters. It says to the breaking of bread and the prayers. So there were specific prayers. The breaking of bread, they were eating together. And in verse 43, it says, and all came upon every soul, and many wonders and signs were being done through the apostles, and all who believed were together and had all things in common. And they were selling their possessions and belongings and distributing to the proceeds to all as any had need. To be generous. The gospel infiltrates your life. It turns into generosity. It always will. And day by day, attending the temple together, breaking bread in their homes. So you see, it's just shoving them into community. It's shoving them together. That's what the gospel always does. The genuine, true gospel pushes people together, glues people together, it brings people together. Mm-hmm. They were attending day by day the temple, breaking bread in their homes. They're getting together in their homes. They receive their food with glad and generous hearts, praising God and having favor with all people. Not only are they generous with themselves, but they're generous with all people. And the Lord added to their number day by day those who were being saved. So what a great passage that we see real genuine community come uh, to life in the life of the first church, the first century church. I mean, right when the church was birthed, they came together in community. And what I love, there's so many great things. We could talk for hours and hours and hours about that passage and kind of pick apart some of the phrases and things like that. But one of the coolest things to me about that section in Acts is, um, over and over in the New Testament, especially the Gospels, Matthew, Mark, Luke, and John, they're walking with Jesus, and Jesus has to instruct them. He has so many things that he has to tell, like do
Yeah.
this, don't do this, don't do this, and in His grace and His kindness, He guides us well. He's a good shepherd. But what's cool about that passage in Acts chapter 2 is, there wasn't some kind of big, hammer dropped on God's people that says, "Hey, what are you doing? You got to get together. You got to get together. You got to pour into each other. You got to circle in. You got to figure out how to get together and love each other." It's almost like that just was the natural result
Yeah.
of what was happening in their hearts through the gospel. And so it's a beautiful thing to have a gospel community, to have people in your lives that you love, that care for you. I talk sometimes about, people have a lot of friends in our culture. People have connections, relationships, but to
Yeah.
have genuine friends that deeply care for you, but also at a spiritual level too. Like, we need to care for one another spiritually.
Yeah.
And so, what's great about community is when you need prayer, or when you need somebody to encourage you, or to, help you with maybe some kind of issue, or some kind of spiritual thing that comes up in your journey. Um, people might have friends out there, but I know a lot of people who don't go to church, and if they're unchurched friends, if they were to say, "Hey, I'm struggling. I think God's working in my life. Can you pray for me?" People, if you don't have good, genuine, gospel-centered friends,
Yeah.
they're not going to handle that. And that's the deepest part of who we are. The spiritual core of who we are is what God is doing in our lives, and we need people who are connected spiritually to us in community. So, Jordan, why don't you talk a little bit now about just some of your experience with community? Because you basically grew up in the church, pastor's kid. Talk a little bit about your experience with community, and then maybe lead into your experience now with our church and community.
Yeah, definitely. So, like, one of the things that you were just saying, you know, uh, having those people to walk alongside you, like, I believe that every church that I've been a part of up to Harbor City tried to do community well, the best they knew how. It's just what happened is that with any church that I was a part of, it was more. Um, it was just you tried for a second or two, and then it just diminished, or you try to express yourself, or you try to say, okay, I'm going through this, and it'd be like, okay, cool. I don't know how to handle that too well, because I think that in our culture today, um that community, it's not done well. I don't in church, in life, I don't think the community is done well. But then when you look at scripture, when I was, um, about a year before you approached me, um, and we talked together, and we talked about Harbor City. I was going through Acts, and I was reading it, and I was like, this is what the church is supposed to be doing. Like, we're supposed to be gathering together. We're supposed to be having this biblical community, and I'm just not seeing it. And then I went to San Francisco for a while, and I saw biblical community, and I was like, that's what I'm wanting. Um, and then to actually be a part of Harbor City with this community, it's refreshing. This is, um, man, like, just going back like a week ago, to when one of our people had to give up their son back to their original family they were fostering, And just to see people just come together, even in the midst of this COVID, they said, okay, no, 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 this is what's important. We need to be there for you. And just to have those people just come together and just love on them and to care for them and to really just um,
Yeah.
be there for them. I mean that's the church coming. Or when I have a problem in my life spiritually and I can come to my DNA group and say, guys, I'm not hitting the mark.
Yeah.
um,
Right
and
on.
they're keeping me accountable. Like it's amazing to see what happens when people actually take those words and acts
Sure. And
seriously.
I think what we like kind of seeing how it comes together at our church is the kind of the tagline or the byline to what we say with community is um, it's on our signs when we had the signs that we put out at the school when we were meeting at the school. It said just simply it just was a simple phrase that said everybody needs family.
Yeah,
And I know everybody's got friends. Everybody has some loyal friends. I know family. A lot of people have some crazy family relationships, but with honest community is what it is. It's a family. It's a spiritual family that hey, we need each other. So, what are some challenges right now that you're experiencing with trying to understand, trying to live in community, and pressing into some of your brothers that you're connected to?
yeah.
Does it
It's
really hurt it a lot, or is there some ways to overcome?
I mean, yeah. I think like one of the greatest things is Skype, Zoom, FaceTime,
Sure.
House Party. All these different things that you can come together with. Texting is a big one now.
Yeah.
I've been texting my DNA group like crazy. Every day. That yeah, it's hard because I want to be there. I want to be in person. I think I was telling Bradley the other night when we met for DNA. I was like, dude, I just want to be there with you right now. I just want to just be like right where you are. Just I want to be there. And that's hard because it's like we can't.
Yeah.
Because we're trying to be smart, we're trying to stay safe, trying to follow what the government's saying, but man, it's hard. I think that's the hardest part of this
We
community.
want to be. We want to do this too, but because it's a gracious way for us to, if for some crazy reason we have been exposed or infected or something like that,
Yeah,
like we don't want to we don't want to pass that on. And
right.
so, God is gracious to us that He's given us these online internet tools that we can use for community. But um, one of as you were talking, one of the things I was thinking of is just I hope in my prayer that if whoever's listening to this, if they don't, what I think would be tragic is if somebody is a believer and maybe they've considered themselves a believer for many years, and through this time that nobody is blowing up their phone. You know what I mean? It's almost like if you have some good, solid, honest community and something like this hits and shakes up your community, then you're going to do whatever you can to make sure you stay connected. And one of the greatest things that we can use is just the devices that everybody carries around in their pocket.
Yeah,
And so my prayer and my hope is that people that are watching it or listening is that they have somebody that like you can open up your messages and you can scroll through and there's just people after people in your message
yeah,
roll that say, hey, what are you doing? And you're chatting with people and they're
yeah,
checking on you and making sure you're okay.
yeah,
So yeah, community is essential. Genuine, honest. We use the word honest because I think the word honest is a pretty strong word when it comes to community because I think if we're honest, we don't have a lot of people that I guess the term I've used before, and I think it's a good word, is full disclosure. Like, who are you honest with? Like, who
yeah,
knows you? Who really knows you?
yeah,
And I think for a lot of people, we can say, nobody. Nobody really knows me.
mhm,
And to have genuine biblical community, I've heard it said like this before, and I've said it before too. Genuine biblical community it's beautiful, it's essential, and it's hard work. It's
Yeah.
hard work. Like,
Yeah.
you got to work hard. Like, and we've seen people in our church who very much extroverts, and they've had to kind of work hard to have some genuine, honest community.
Yeah.
But we've seen amazing things come from that too. So,
Yeah.
well, I think that maybe we can wrap up the video. I think that it's a great conversation to have. Yeah, I even like having the conversation online like this. I
Yeah.
prefer sitting down with you.
Yeah.
Um,
I miss you.
but I know we're having to do what we can. But I do want to share a quick story, which is pretty funny. Um, so last night I had somebody come over. They wanted to do a little fishing, and I live on the water. And they came over late, so we were like, maybe we could try to catch some catfish. We got in a kayak, and it was like 11 o'clock late. It's dark. It's a beautiful full moon. We're kayaking out a little bit. It's me and I'll go ahead and say it's Goose. Goose is in the front. I have a tandem kayak. I'm in the back. We're paddling. We're cruising along. And a mullet. These things, if you're not from way down south in the bayou area like Mississippi and Louisiana, stuff like that, so the mullet, they jump. Like, sometimes they get 3 feet of air, and they jump a couple of times. And so usually it seems pretty random, pretty sporadic. But we didn't catch a fish. We didn't see anything except for a mullet that came flying up out of the water and landed in Goose's lap right in front of me. And it's flopping around in the boat, rattling around. We're, hollering and trying to figure out what's going on. He can't grab it because he really doesn't know what it is, really. And so he tries to grab it, and he holds it back to me. He's like, "What is that?" That's a mullet. And he throws it in. It was funny. We kind of had like community on the water last night. Some honest kayaking community. It was a good thing. So anyway,
At 11 o'clock at night. That's
no alligators. I don't want to have close, honest community with alligators. Well, all right. Let's wrap it up. You got anything else to say before we wrap it up?
All I gotta do is I need to hold this up because
There you
Jessica was like, "You're going to block that out of the shot," and I was like, "Well, I'll just put it in the shot."
That's right. That's
So,
right. With family.
yeah,
Hopefully, you guys who are listening out there, hopefully you have a spiritual family. If not, we're still going to be posting some videos. Even when we get our goal is to get back together, meeting live, where we can worship together. We can see each other. We can hug each other's neck without somebody looking at you weird. Like, don't get too close to me. That is the goal. That is
for a while.
do what?
I think that's going to be a thing though for a while. Like, I was looking like down an aisle the other day at the grocery store, and I was like, "That's too many people. Like, I need to go somewhere." I think that's just going to be ingrained in our mind for a little bit.
It'll stick around a little bit. You're right. But the purpose of the church, it's if you are watching our videos and you're listening online, you really do need to get connected to a local body of believers that can care for you, that can love you. I know it's kind of a debated topic right now, but you don't really need your pastor to be on a screen. The Bible talks about observing your leaders and imitating them and honoring them, and really even says it talks about like obeying them, that kind of thing. If you never see them, if you never talk to them, that's a challenge. And I know it's debatable and people say one thing or another, but I want to encourage you to find some genuine, honest, biblical community. This is episode 3, Simple, Honest, Focused.
Yeah.
And we love you. Have a great rest of the week. It's Easter week. Jordan, you got anything to say about that?
It's going to be a weird Easter. But it's going to be good.
Yeah. All right. Well, we love you. See ya.
All right. Bye.